Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
You know, I love listening to our rabbi's messages. I don't know how many times I've heard them, but I always learn so much. This week I was listening to a rabbi and I was interested in what he had to say because he was talking about emunah to bitachon, and I wanted to listen to be able to compare what our rabbi would say about emunah, which is a gift of God. And he said it today about how every single one of us on earth, every human being, every male, female, have been given emunah, faith. But what we do with that faith, we turn it into trust, bitachon. And that's a process. And this rabbi, I was listening to him, and he was saying, I have my following, my people, and they increased after COVID. I got double the amount of people who followed me but you mustn't listen to anybody on social media. But in the meantime, he was on social media, and he was saying that the reason that my people have been following now for 20 years is because I never made a mistake. When I heard that, I remembered what our rabbi said. Everyone makes mistakes, and he said, I make mistakes. And if you do not follow people, he said it today, follow God. Don't listen to what other people say. Always compare the words with what God says. And that is such an important thing because it's so easy to follow human beings. That's why he had to take us away from Egypt, away from all these gods, because it's just too easy to follow all these different gods. We make people, humans, into gods. And what else did he say? He said so many things today. It's so good to read it again, to listen to what he says. He talked about that these 10 commandments were given to us at Mount Sinai, and they were not for us to hold on to grasp for ourselves, even though that's what our people say. This is just for us. We have our God, you have yours. And that's not what God wanted from us. And these 10 commandments, we read them every week. And it's not, don't allow them to become something that we just take for granted, because every decision that we make, we need to compare it to what these 10 say. And they're so important for us to remember them, to have them on the tips of our tongues, so that when we're out there in the world and other people ask us questions or want to know a little bit more about why we're behaving a little different, we could speak about our 10 commandments and not to be afraid to speak the truth. It's funny because this message was 3.5 years ago, and yet it's as real today, if not even more so than it was yesterday. And he talked about that the world is motivated by selfishness, and that's true. You see so much of that, and I think a lot of the mental illness that we see today is there because we're so directed into ourself instead of knowing that there's something greater out there who is directing us. So to me, it was a wonderful message. Is there something that you gleaned from what he said that spoke to you today? I'd like to hear from some of you.
Just one thing I want to understand more clearly, about morality and the world, that the world's, doesn't have a moral code anymore. But when nowadays, if people talk about what they believe in is right or wrong, like for example, in the world of sexuality, with everything that's going on with transgender and this and that, if I theoretically say, well, it's against the very law of God, not law in the way, the very nature of God's creation, and they say they'll come out with their own moral thing, and they'll think I'm immoral, so it's not that I'm thinking, oh, they're pushing their morality on me. It's not even about that. It's that that's the pervasive thought over the whole world. They're doing what they think is right. As I have a family member very dear to me who's homosexual. If I open up that whole issue, there's no point. So to me, what sounds to me more, maybe a better way of putting it, is not that they're pushing their morality on me. They believe what they say is right and wrong, and they don't have that touch from God, or they're not listening to it. That morality comes from God. So rather than just to me is a different wording, which would makes more sense when I talk to other people, because I want them to understand what I mean. They're
Well,
not pushing.
without the idea of God in your life, it really doesn't matter what we believe.
No, what I mean to say is what we mean. When I say to somebody, I'm not saying, I'm just theoretically, that you're pushing your morality on me. Yes, it's true, but they believe that they are totally right and I'm immoral. So what I want to say in response, God is the author of all morality. So I'd rather talk to them about God, and if they don't want to hear about God, as you say, there's nothing I can say. But if
Nothing.
not, they're not pushing and I'm not pushing. We have a different starting point. And
Exactly.
God is the author
But
of all.
that idea is no different than someone who will say, well, I don't need to keep the Shabbat. You know, what's the big deal about keeping Shabbat? It's no different than that. We can't say, well, one sin is worse than another.
No, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just
No, I know you're
responding.
not saying that. I'm saying it.
Okay, so
I know
how's
you
that
weren't saying that.
responding to what I'm saying?
What's the difference in with what you choose? Like you're choosing um, uh, uh, something that's so obvious today that with all the transgenderism. But I have friends who have no qualms about going out and shopping or doing whatever they want on Shabbat. It's no different
Okay, I
than
see.
that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is that if that person is trying to push it on you, that's a different thing. But that person you can't speak to unless they share that common premise that
exactly.
so that's
Exactly.
all I'm saying. When Rabbi or anyone, maybe I understand what he means, but it's the world is just in a state where they don't have God.
No,
So,
exactly.
but
Why do you think
now,
we're going through what we're going through?
yeah. So I'm saying the
Yeah,
laws that I think that are totally immoral, that are not from God, but to them that's their moral code. Like my family
exactly.
member with who's homosexual. If there's nothing. She's not pushing it on me, but we just can't talk about it because we don't have a common
Yeah.
belief.
But it's the same way with a friend of mine who said, well, I'm going out today. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going with another friend. I can't say to her, I could, but it wouldn't mean anything because we've talked about Shabbat over and over. She's Jewish, and she says, oh, I'm going out with a friend to the shopping center today. I didn't say a word because I've already talked to her about Shabbat. What am I going to say to her? No, don't go on Shabbat. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean anything to her. It's the same with your niece. It doesn't mean anything to them
no,
because they
no,
don't have the concept. They don't
right.
understand of a one God. It's very difficult. And yet we do at some point need to say something. You've already
Yeah,
said something.
for sure.
I've already said something. All I can do now is pray. Lord, open their eyes. Let them see. Because for me, it's a much bigger consequence. And I don't know, sometimes I think I don't know if I'm the only one who sees this thing, but I don't think so. It's like you have a being, this greater being who we know as God, who is looking down on this planet and he can see light and he can see darkness. Every time we break a commandment, we bring a little bit of more darkness into the world. And so, the more darkness there is, the worse things are going to get around us. So all we can do as somebody who does know God is make sure that we ourselves are bringing light and not darkness into the world. That's the only thing we can do. And hopefully with our with our behavior, we can stay the tides. We can turn the tides, so that things can get better. Only God is going to be able to do it. The whole idea of let's not follow people, let's follow God. That's really, really important in absolutely every decision that we make. And it's sometimes tough, which is why we need each other. Why sometimes I'll send you a text or an email, or I'll ask you, Mauricio, what should I do in this situation? Because it's not always clear. We live in a gray zone. Not everything is black and white, even though for me, I'm a very black and white person. But I know that sometimes we have to really examine what these things are. What are my motivations when I do something? Am I doing that out of a sense of selfishness? Like I want people to like me. I want people to think, oh, look how wise or how smart she is. Or I'm doing it because I really want to follow God. That's why walking with God is so difficult. That's why, he talked about bitachon, our intention. Constantly have to examine our intentions in absolutely everything we do. It can be exhausting. It's not easy to be a believer, to walk with God. Holech, b'derech Elohim. It's not an easy thing to do. And sometimes it can make you crazy because you just, let me just do anything I want. But no, we don't have that right. Israel wants to do that. The state of Israel wants to be like the other nations. We don't have that right because we've been chosen. And I liked when he said every human being, he called it the divine sparkle. We all have a divine spark within us. God breathed his spirit into us. And Yitro, who is not an Israelite, gave Moses wisdom, talked to him about, and he was there at the base of what they called Moses's mountain, God's mountain. God's mountain. Yitro had God's wisdom in it. Just because someone is born an Israelite doesn't make him have God's wisdom. We all have that divine spark, and we all have to exercise the divine spark and turn it into trust. Every single thing boils down to, do I trust God or not?
Yeah, sometimes it's very difficult because we live in between different positions in our lives, and
Yes.
we are not capable to judge everyone behavior because honestly we don't know their story. What is the story behind them? Okay.
Right.
For example, if a person is homosexual, 90 or 95% of the homosexuals were sexual assaulted when they were kids. Okay, so they were raped. So it's something that happened in the past that provoke their current situation. Okay, so at least in my country, that's the statistics of my country. Most of the persons who are homosexual were raped when they were kids.
And the others, it's a fashion. That's why,
Yeah,
Miriam, when you said your niece is a homosexual, I don't believe that. I believe
yeah,
that's a choice. That
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
but
choice.
what
she
does
may
that
call herself that, but I don't believe in her soul that she
Well,
is.
it may be not what's it called? It may be a temporary thing, but it's a response to a certain reality. She's attracted to women and she's fallen in love with a woman.
Many
And
women
Yeah,
are. Many women are,
yeah,
but
but
they don't act on it.
yeah, but that's another point that I would say that there is a mm, according to the statistics of my country. Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna say that probably are very similar to your country, but here around 80% of kids at age of 12, 14 years old have doubts about their sexuality.
Right.
And in this case, it's very needed that parents care of their children to guide them, okay? Because at that point, there are many people who wants their souls, I would say, okay? Because
Hold on, Brian.
yeah, because there are many people who are watching these kids, okay, and they want that they become their sexual orientation. So they are like, you know, I don't know how to say that, but in Spanish, we have some, uh, how do you say that? We call them like aves de presa, pero that's are birds like eagles that are looking for a dead body just to
A
catch them.
vulture. They're vultures.
Yeah, like vultures. Yeah, they're vultures. So the point is, they are around these kids, and these people wants to take advantage of them because they are in that time. I'm doubting. So it's very important that when they are kids, we raise them up in a very healthy environment as family. That is a very important point, because if not, we are just putting more additives that their sexual orientation goes to the wrong way, because God designed us just to be men and to be women. And the point is, it's not that I'm against homosexuals because they are homosexuals. No, it's because uh, when God decided to give me this body, okay, to be woman or to be man, it's because He thought that my soul will develop better in this body. And that's the purpose of God. So when I decide to myself to say, oh God, you are wrong. You put my soul in a wrong body. What I'm saying is, I'm not, I don't want to fulfill your purpose to my soul in this life. So what will happen? That you will always have inside of you, even though you express something different with your mouth, inside of you, there will be always something that is missed, that you need to do something to be fulfilled, to be a full life. And for that reason, at least for me, is that homosexuality is not good for the person. It's not about you are a sinner. No, it's about God wants that you have a full life, and in order to have a full life, you need to 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 fulfill also the purpose of the of your body in this
Right.
world.
It causes confusion within. And God is not a God of confusion. He's a God of order. And
Yes.
absolutely everything that we do that goes against God always brings us to more chaos instead of order.
Mhm.
And, you know, and there are people, parents or a mother or a father who would prefer that there's that the daughter be a son, or that the son have been a daughter. And parents have so much influence on their children, more than we realize. And we have up to the age of 6 that kind of power within us. A parent can destroy or make a child with the things that they say to them. You're stupid. Oh, I wish I had a daughter. Oh, I wish you were this. Or, you know, why aren't you? And they may overhear them say it to somebody else. And inside, the character starts to be formed in a different way. There's so many of this going on today, and we have to be so careful. Yes, Brian, I put you on mute because there's a static that comes from your phone.
I know, the phone's not on here.
No, no, Yeah,
tablet.
there's a static that we hear that comes from it. But anyway, what would you like to say?
This psychiatrist or something.
Okay.
It's like a boy. Says she says he's a boy. There's Mike, but look at her face. No signs of ever having to shave her face. And one more thing I have to do when I see her again, I have to make a profile and then tell her, "Where's the Adam apple?" She's calling herself a boy, but where's the Adam apple?
But it's gone even worse today. I just heard a young girl say that she identifies as being a hawk. A hawk is a kind of bird that soars and looks for, and there's a whole, my grandchildren tell me about kids in school today who identify as animals. One came to school with, he identified as a dog, and his friend had him on a leash, and he was eating from a bowl in the school. The problem is us, that we accept that the school allows that kind of nonsense. And we are called, as you said, Miriam, we are called whatever phobias. We're the ones, if we say something against it, we are the ones with the trouble because we have to accept everything. And that is anti-God.
Freud would be rolling in his grave
Oh,
if he knew that the word phobia, which I think probably, well, maybe before him, but he really talked about, that even with things like Islamophobia, that's not a phobia. And I find that so insulting when they use that term. You can say something like anti-Muslim, whatever, but don't call it a phobia. And then transphobia. I'm not afraid when I see a transgender person.
right.
So there's such a twisting of everything now that even a word, you can't, people just grab a word and use it for their own purposes.
Exactly. Yes, Brian.
Sodom and Gomorrah was a place of all these kinds of people. Where is
Yes.
it? Where can you find it?
Where do you find the story of Sodom and Gomorrah?
Story, the place that was there, and now it's gone.
It's gone. Exactly, because God sent
All the people in that place were transgenders and whatever, and they're not here. And
exactly.
where are they? So where's your city of your corruption? It's all
Yeah.
gone.
That's why so much they call it environmental issues, but I think it's the world is burning because God is getting a little bit fed up with us. Yes, Brian. Sorry, I put you on mute again. Brian, I put you on mute. Unmute yourself. I can't hear you because I put you on mute, Brian. It's okay. It's all right. Anyway, it would be so nice to hear from somebody else, Etid or Alejandro, Yanet, Rhonda, somebody. I don't know. I sent the message out to Mildred, not to Mildred, to Isabel, to Sadi, and to Yanet. I sent it out in Spanish so that you'll understand it. I always send the message out before so that you can hear it. Do you have anything that stood out for you in this week? Okay.
Well, I just want to add something.
Yes.
That this week Janet sent me a short video
Okay.
about a guy. I don't know if he was a pastor or something. Okay, and they were discussing about something. Okay, they were discussing about what is more important, to honor or to be obedient. Okay, so and he started to say, okay, so people was like, because they were trying to express what is written in the Ten Commandments. Okay, but he was saying that um, to be obedient is more important. Just just to make us short. And yes, that is something very important. But in the Torah, it says to honor. Okay, the Ten Commandments. In the problem is that sometimes people tries to twist some truth. Okay, and this is very dangerous because
That's taking his name in vain.
yeah, because there is no obviously the commandments were given to follow them and to live by them. Okay,
Right.
but there is nothing in the whole Torah that says honestly it's a commandment explicit to obey. Okay, it's implied. Okay, but it's not so like obey this, because obey, when I say a command to obey, is like
It's not enforced or imposed.
yeah, it's not imposed. Because God give us the election. We have the choice
Right.
to say, I gotta do this or I gotta not to do this. So if the commandment will be obey, so it's taking out your free will. Okay.
Exactly.
So what God said, if you obey, so when he said if, so it is something that is very important, because gives you the opportunity to do or not to do. If you do, then you have this consequence.
Right.
If you don't do, then you will have this consequence.
Right.
But when he says to honor your parents, is because uh, this verb honor honestly is anti natura, I would say.
Goes against our nature.
It's against our nature. Yeah, because sometimes we are not looking to honor people. Okay, we are trying, but on without the rules that the society teach us. But I mean, if I live alone in a place and I don't have any contact with anybody, the concept to honor is not in my mind. It's not something that is from my nature. It's not friendship. For example, like to go and take water. Okay, that's something that is in my nature. I do with no conscience. Okay, uh, but to honor is a little bit different. Okay, and um, there is no, I will say, um, eh, like, okay, the idea is this: when I decide to honor, I'm doing an extra. Uh,
It's like we're very self-centered. Our nature is self-centered.
yes,
So,
yeah.
and that's the
If
problem.
another, yes, that takes out my comfortable space,
Right.
my comfortable emotions. So I'm doing something that is against my nature, and and also uh, that's probably why God says honor, because it's not in you, and sometimes probably you don't want to honor, because
Right.
it doesn't say honor with happiness, for
No,
example.
exactly.
Honor because you want to reward that person.
Right.
It is just a statement that it says honor no matter who is the person that you will honor. Okay, because I know it's very hard this. Okay, and there are many toxic relations. I remember, for example, I have a cousin their parents get divorced, and his parent already died and was at United States living. Then, because of the war, she had to move to the United States. Sometimes after she was not married woman, she was a widow, and but God prospered her. Okay, then her parent went to her to approach her. Obviously, he left them here many years ago, but now he wants to become a family in a foreign country. So she opened the doors of her house, but at the end, his parent took a certain amount of money from her and disappeared.
Her father?
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you saw that, and you are before this commandment, honor your parent, where is, I am a widow woman, and I'm raising up a child with, with my own, and now you are taking me money and you are disappearing. So what kind of parent is that?
Right.
So, but the Torah is telling me, even though he doesn't deserve, your role is to honor your parents. How do we honor? Because that is a very important question. Well, sometimes we honor by hearing people. Sometimes, and honestly, when you hear, but you are not like, "Mm, no, it's time to leave." Okay,
Right.
go, hurry, go to the point. No, to hear. Okay, sometimes we honor our parents not just by giving something, because that, to say, I gotta give $100. Yeah, that is a level. But when you go, for example, with this $1,000, for example, and you sit with your parent and you start to see if they need something else, that's honoring your parents. Okay, when, for example, you see your parents that they have problems to walk, for example, and you help them, and you say, okay, support on my shoulder so you can walk very safety.
Right. Lean.
That's your, yeah,
Lean on my shoulder. Yeah.
yeah. So there are, to honor is not just giving. Okay,
Right.
and also you honor your parents, for example, when even though they don't deserve, okay, you are there for them.
Right.
Okay, um, probably yes, not necessarily you need to have a close relationship with them, because there
Right.
are parents who are very destructive. I mean, I don't know how many people are in jail, for example, or having problems with drugs and things like that. So this kind of people is very dangerous for your own kids. But
Right.
even though they are there, you can help them and to try to raise them up. But for that reason, I just want to talk about this, because sometimes there are people who wants to take out something of the scriptures that is out of context,
Right.
and the problem is that they make theology about that.
Right.
What they are doing is destroying the word of God.
Right.
So I just want to comment that.
Yeah. What I'd like also is to this week, the Haftorah portion, let me see if I can find it here. It talked about in Isaiah 9, 5, and 6 that God, that, oh, where did I put it? Pele yoetz aviad sar shalom. Here it says, For unto us a child is born, a son has been given to us, and authority is settled upon his shoulders. His name is Peleo Etz El Gibor, Aviad Sar Shalom, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, so that the government may be increased and there will be no end to peace upon the throne of David and his kingdom, that it may be firmly established and upheld through justice and righteousness now and forevermore. The zeal of the Adonai Tzevaot, the Lord of hosts, shall bring this to pass. Many people point to this as the fulfillment of Yeshua as being the Messiah. Mauricio, what would you say to that?
Well, for me, honestly, I don't have studied this portion in deep, but what I hear what I'm for what I'm understanding, honestly, is talking not about a person specifically, because for example, honestly, human, where is this human that is Prince of Peace, for example? It
Or
really
mighty
does
God.
exist.
Or
Or mighty God.
Yeah.
Is there a human being that could be a mighty God? Adonai Sebaot?
Right.
No.
I guess it's taking it out of context, like you just said. We'd have to read the whole portion, the whole chapter, and see what.
Yeah, so it couldn't be a person, okay? Just because the first commandment is, I am your God, and if I put, for example, a person to be a mighty God,
Yeah.
what I'm doing, I'm breaking the first commandment.
Exactly. There are no other gods.
There are no other gods. So in that way, I would say that it's not really a person. It couldn't be a person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more related that is God Himself. Okay, because there are no one else that can comply with or fulfill these verse. Okay, and obviously we have to understand the whole chapter, because we need to read them and just go in deep, but I will say that just by hearing this just verse is talking about God. So um in for example, to be a counselor, who is our counselor? Is God, who who um, also who gives us peace is God. So and you know, this is like a metaphor between, and I always love this because I can imagine to be at that place in Mount Sinai. Okay, Moses go up to the mountain. What he hears, the voice of God.
Right.
What is all the people who is not at the same level or at the same vibration that Moses? Well, they hear thunders,
Right.
they hear uh, different sounds of shofar and things like that. So they are afraid. Moses was happy. So is the very same point, is the very same expression of divinity, but with two different complete understanding.
Right.
Okay, so for me is that picture is the very same for some verses of the prophets. The prophets at that moment, they were in the middle of probably a dream, or we would say a meditation. So they are between this world and the spiritual world.
Right.
Okay, so they are faint but they can perceive some message. Okay, and they are looking and they try to put in some words what is happening, what they saw, okay, what his soul experimented, but that was his soul.
Right.
A person close to them do not see the very same things that this prophet saw,
Exactly.
and so he could understand something.
Right.
But there are many people like Israel at Mount Sinai that they see another thing completely.
Right.
Okay, so the problem is you start to make oh, God is the sound of the shofar
Right.
is more important than the 10 commandments.
Right.
Eh, so that is very different. So it's very important also to grow, okay, to grow and to experiment God's presence daily, and to have a close relationship with Him.
Right.
And that is something that as I can perceive, honestly, I don't know if there is another thing, but if you talk with God daily,
Yes.
you read the Bible, if you read uh, and also you meditate on Him, okay, then you will start to have another mentality, another to see the whole nature about around you
Mhm.
complete different,
Mhm.
okay, and then you start to see, oh, I never seen that,
Mhm.
oh, I never read that, I never understood this, okay. So but honestly, this but to conclude this, no, it could be Yeshua, it couldn't be Yeshua, it couldn't be a Messiah, it couldn't be a human being, because then we are breaking the first commandment.
Right.
We put
Right.
another person, that that person is referring this prophet.
Right. I think sometimes of Joshua, who went up. They were told not to go near the mountain and not to even to touch it, and yet Joshua went part way up, and the whole time Moses is up there for 40 days and 40 nights. Joshua was halfway up. What did he experience? He wasn't receiving the 10 Commandments. To me, his faith was even stronger. It's a little bit like comparing Isaac and Abraham. Abram, whose faith was stronger. Isaac, who allowed himself to be put on the altar, have his hands bound, not knowing what was going to happen. Here, Joshua, and look how God used Joshua afterwards to take Moses' place. These characters that we have, who he did the same thing. They split the water of the Jordan. Moses split the water of the Red Sea. Joshua was also a very incredible character. And so many of us have been given a role where God is working in our lives. And, we don't always see, the impact that we have on others and what we're doing. So this was, anyway, yes, Miriam.
Didn't interrupt. Did you have something more to say?
No, it's okay.
Okay. It's interesting though, with the 10 Commandments, like the first one is that God is God, and all the other commandments flow from Him. So to me, when people talk about it as the law, it's not a law because it's two-sided. In order to really understand and obey the commandments, we first of all have to know them, and God works within us. Like, for example, we're just talking about honoring. It's not a commandment, like you can't be ordered to do it. Honoring almost implies that you have to have a relationship with God, because how could you honor, for example, a mother or father who beat you? You could only do that through the help of God, or to understand that. So everything is based on God. So when it says honor your mother and your father, like this woman whose father, Mauricio was saying, took money from her and just disappeared, if I understood correctly. how does she honor that, her father, even in her memory, unless she's able to go beyond it, and God can give her the forgiveness for him. So I'm saying it's all tied up. If it were just commandments, it would be all one-sided. Honor, so it would just be like, pick up that thing that dropped on the floor or whatever. It's not. The commandments imply a relationship with God, and you can only really follow the commandments if you have a relationship with God.
Yeah. It's like you can't order anybody to love somebody
No,
or to forgive somebody. These are
no.
all things that come
I
directly.
remember with Corrie ten Boom,
Right.
she was able to actually forgive one of the guards who persecuted in the camps,
Who killed her sister.
right. And
Yeah.
she could do it. And as she had met him, he came, I think,
He came to ask her forgiveness. She was
right.
speaking at
And
a church on forgiveness.
Right.
And he was sitting in the back, and she had seen him, and he walked at the end. He walked up to her and he introduced himself saying, I'm the guard who was responsible for killing your sister. I've come to know God. Can you forgive me? And she said the only thing that she could feel was hate. But she
Right.
knew that she needed to forgive. And the only thing that she could get herself to do to get out of her own, as you said, ego, this ego that holds on to these emotions, the only thing she could do was to hold out her hand. And the moment her hand touched his, there was like an electrical surge, she said, that went through her, and all her hatred disappeared, and she was able to forgive him. She knew that that had to come from God, because she couldn't do that in
So
herself.
that's what honor.
But that's taking a step of faith.
Right.
Holding your hand out, her hand out was taking that step of faith. And then because of that, what God did helped her to trust the bitachon.
Right.
That's what we have to do at every part of our lives, is take that first step of faith, which sometimes seems impossible. It is so difficult to do something that you think you cannot do, to take the first step. But that's something that we learn over time. And thank goodness that, as we get older, if we're walking with God, more and more we'll be able to see that in our lives. And that's what helps us to stay connected to him. So anyway, Shabbat, I want to wish everyone Shabbat Shalom. Let's keep praying for each other. Pray for this community. Pray for Israel. Pray for our soldiers. Pray we know what to pray for. Pray for each
For
other
everything. Yes.
every day. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you all for enjoying the Shabbat with us together, and let's continue to have a wonderful Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Shabbat
Yes.
shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Mauricio. Bye. Shalom.
Thank you, Mauricio. Bye.
Shalom,
Bye.
Sari.
Shalom. Shalom.
Bye, Rhonda.
Bye.
Bye, Rhonda,
Bye.
Miriam,
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Eli. Bye. Shabbat shalom.